Hello, my name's Ian. Today I'm going to talk about Mission First Tactical magazines. I acquired a bunch of these magazines from my soldiers because we had discovered that in his mag pouches, his magazines only had about 10 rounds in them each, and his mag pouches were filled with cartridges that had been sitting inside of his mag pouches. Now the reason for that is these magazines, they look very similar to Gen 3 pmags, and they have similar packaging, and they happen to be a bit cheaper. Now these were sold in local PX, so they seemed like a tempting deal. So you can have pmags, and that way you would look cool, have special magazines, and they should do the job. Unfortunately, that's not the case. The polymer used in these is inferior to the Gen 3 pmags, and as a result, the feed lips aren't able to retain magazines as well, resulting in, if your magazine is in storage and you're running around with kit, gravity slowly tearing these rounds out, and over time in storage they also will just spit rounds out on their own. So while I'm putting force on this magazine to exaggerate the issue, this is what happens over time. An issue not seen with the pmag, which is more rigid design, along with the metal mags. So these resist that force easier, and a lot of magazines being made nowadays are like this. They're made of a cheaper polymer as a competitor to the commercial market for these. The only real issue with that is this is not marketed as a commercial magazine, it's marketed as a duty magazine. It's marketed as a cheaper competitor to the pmag, and it's also marketed as a replacement for the stand-ag mag. So I have a Gen 3 pmag disassembled on the left hand side and an MFT magazine disassembled on the right. If we look at the two designs, you can see the bodies are very similar, and that MFT had copied pmag's follower almost exactly, and they used the exact same springs, and they have their 4 plates. So the difference is this one has a stop and this one does not. The idea was that we could close the MFT on a closed bolt with that extra movement, but that is useless as this can't retain that many rounds under pressure, and it'll just spit around through the feed lips. The reason for this is it appears the Gen 3 pmag has much more glass fiber or nylon fiber inside of its polymer. MFT purchased this polymer from DuPont Industries, and it's the same type polymer to use headrests in race cars. So while it's extremely abrasion resistant and lightweight, it's not rigid enough for this one application. So if you look down, the dimensions are pretty much the same. The inside is designed the same. It has the same little grooves. If you turn them over, turned over, you can see the wall dimensions are exactly the same inside of both. So if we take the pmag and we squeeze the top, while there is movement, there's not much movement. Now if we take the MFT, far more movement, and this goes the same going outwards. So as pressure is being exerted, these are bending out and releasing rounds. So with those issues, there's also another issue. A lot of these commercial magazines, not just the MFT, are not designed for current round that we are using. So the Army has developed this M855A1, and it requires a different feed angle, and that is the reason why the Army has issued these brown magazines. So I know a lot of us have all these old magazines, and we've still been using them because we think, well, they have anti-tilt followers and they look about the same. But the truth is, there is a different geometry in the feed angle, feed lips, and the actual follower design compared to this one, and this is why we were collecting these and throwing these out. So if you use this round in these commercial magazines or in these original stand-ag mags that aren't tan and don't have the blue follower, what's happening is that this new round with its steel tip is hitting the feed ramps and it's wearing them away prematurely, causing malfunctions, failure feeds, and also chipping away bits of the actual bottom of barrels because it's too hard compared to the rest of the barrel. It's just that hard of steel. What these mags are designed for, though, is the M93 and the original M855 green tip. These rounds will be able to be fed safely through your weapon through a traditional magazine, and you can still use this round with polymer commercial mags, the brown mags, and the Gen 3 pmags. The only two magazines that can properly use this round are, in fact, Gen 3 pmags due to them feeding at a higher angle, and the Army's new brown mags designed specifically for this. I think these are called the Enhanced Performance magazine or something for the Enhanced Performance round. So if you have soldiers with a bunch of these magazines, they're going to cause damage to their M4s. They're going to have magazines that may not retain rounds, and they'll end up with a bunch of rounds inside of their equipment, and they'll be ineffective. Or they could also end up with a bunch of equipment that doesn't work at all, and then that's another gun out of the fight. So what you should do is you should inspect your soldiers' magazines, and make sure there are no of these MFT standard capacity magazines. MFT has made they have something called an extreme duty mag. However, I'd be dubious about that as well. It's supposed to be a little bit thicker, but they still make these today. Their website has not changed. They still say these are supposed to be just as good or better as these options. They were designed to be $5 cheaper than PMags, and they are currently being sold in our PXs, and many soldiers are seeing them as a cheaper option and getting them. However, it should be unacceptable for a company to be selling this subpar equipment to soldiers, even in a PX. In regards to Mission First Tactical, this product is unacceptable and should be taken off of shelves. I understand probably why you guys are still selling it. It's expensive to make these molds. It's expensive to get into this business and try to make a product. However, your product it's not safe. It's being marketed wrong. It's being sold to the wrong people, and it shouldn't be around anymore. You guys have made another product that is better. Maybe you can advertise that better and recoup your profits or losses or whatever, but this is not a good product, and these should be thrown away and or returned to you, Mission First Tactical. So that's about it. Now we can